sorry to mess up the intro for Baggers Show, but I just thought that I would very quickly come on and just say that throughout the episode we were touching on Blake Acres and his injury, of course his collarbone injury, but as soon as we ended recording, it's actually come out that the scans have been cleared for Blake Acres and his collarbone injury. I don't think there's any massive structural damage, which is a really good sign. So he's a very, very much good chance to feature in the elimination final against Sydney. But I just thought I'd very quickly touch on that before the episode gets started, because we will touch on Blake Acres and his injury. But at the time, of course, we didn't know the extent of the injury. But just thought I'd touch on that very quickly. I'll stop talking now and I'll transition to the intro. Hello, one and all, and welcome to our final review of the season, home and away season, until we transition into finals. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Duffy, and we're reviewing a bit of an unusual feeling, a loss for the Carlton Football Club. But final scores, of course, were Carlton 11 goals, 7, 73 to GWS 16 goals, 9, 105, 32-point loss. Before we transition into initial thoughts, Daffy boy, how are you? And I know that you have other, I guess, opinions for the game. But first things first, mate, how are you? And how did you see the game?
No, I'm good. I'm this morning I've moved on from yesterday. I'm trying to block it out of the mind, and I'm not too angry at it. Obviously, like I said to you before, I don't know, there's something in the second half where the foot was off the gas, and I haven't seen us do that ever really. This 9-game win streak, it was a clear mental shift. I'm not exactly sure, but obviously, you don't want to lose the game, but yeah, like I said, it's a game you just want to push away and forget about. Obviously, you've also got to tinker with stuff we need to improve on. Clearly for mine, I thought our transition defense was a little bit off yesterday at a stoppage, but I thought the Giants did a good job in the whole scenario in terms of that all the eyes were on Charlie Curnow winning the Coleman, and they really could have put their heads down once he kicked that goal when we were 2 goals up. But obviously they had something to play for, and clearly we didn't. Based on the intensity we brought, in my opinion, I just thought, if we had a spot to play for, or we were the ones playing for finals, I think it'd be a whole different ball game. I think it'd be a totally different game if it was us and the Giants playing for a spot. I think we would have matched them probably better in the second half. I thought we matched them pretty well in the first half. I thought they were on through the middle of the ground, and it's just got my emails for tickets for finals and stuff like that this morning. So that's definitely got me excited, Pato.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good, summarize of how the kind of game was played. And it was very much a team that had nothing to play for against a team that had everything to play for. So, and I know that we both have a different sort of, opinion. We've been speaking about it pretty much all day, and also yesterday as well after the game, and how I'm seeing it more as the PTSD feeling of, God, I hope that isn't what we see in finals. But you're also seeing it from the other side of, halftime, it was pretty much dead and buried, that we kind of accepted that the thing that we had to get ticked off was Charlie Curnow getting the Coleman. That was ticked off.
Yes.
We were already locked in for 5th spot. It was kind of pretty much down to who we were going to verse. We knew that if we were going to lose Sydney, that we would play Sydney, because we weren't too sure if we were going to play either Giants or the Dogs, or if Sydney won, we wouldn't have been playing Sydney. So that's one of the things where we just had to, see how it all worked out. But yeah, I think, as you said, I think it's very much down to the it was one team playing with a never say die. It was pretty much do or die attitude against a team that really had nothing to play for. So initial thoughts, Daffy boy. I'll say a few things before I transition to you for your initial thoughts. But I think, as we mentioned before, I think it's just the feeling that we haven't really felt in a very long time. 9 or 10 weeks, a loss. But I think I'll probably agree with you in this sense. And I think it's just I don't think we have much to worry about right now. And I think it's a bit of a thing where we kind of like, God, that's frustrating that we played like that. But also at the other side of it, we're playing a home final in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
need to see it in that sort of shed of light. But Charlie Curnow, Coleman medalist, which is absolutely fantastic. But initial thoughts, Daffy Boy, what were your thoughts of the game?
yeah. You're right with the first point. It's been probably 11 weeks because we had the bye in between there too. So it's been a massive block of games. I said after the game, it's been a big block of games winning. It's tough. It takes a toll on players as well, I think, for mine. And that clearly was shown yesterday that they knew they didn't have to win, so they didn't have to push too hard. I'm not saying, I'm accepting a loss at all. I'm not saying that at all. But yeah, like what is it? A 10-week period where you haven't lost a game. All the eyes are on you. We've had massive scalps on the way. You're beating Port Adelaide, you're beating Collingwood, you're beating Melbourne's in really good fashion. And it does take a toll. And these guys haven't been in that position where they've won 9 in a row. Well, we haven't won 9 in a row since 2000. So, the last 20 years of players haven't felt that, kind of winning streak and form. And yeah, and with the second point, not too much to worry about. We get some cattle back for the first final with Cripps and Doherty. And I'd imagine, like we touched on off air, I think Pitto will probably come in, maybe. And we'll talk about that obviously in the preview of the final next week, which is exciting. But yeah, the main thing for me was Charlie getting it done. I think it's the perfect reward for a really good home and away season. And yeah, it was a perfect goal, wasn't it? He took the massive mark, and it was just like the whole stadium stopped when that ball went in the air. And yeah, it was just a really good moment. And I just loved how the boys got around him. And we talk about, who cares about individual accolades, but in that moment, in a game where we've done the team thing and locked away our spot, that's when you focus on the individual accolades, and then obviously move on in the finals and focus more on team. And he was, fist pumping after he got the goal, and he was in the goal square. I just watched a bit of footage on Fox Footy, and he was, getting the crowd up and about, and just shows that, he's enjoying it as well. He's soaking it up, because I feel like a lot of athletes at all different levels, whether it's local or professional, they always keep it low key when they win an award, like a Brownlow or a Coleman, and they keep it low key. But I like when they show their passion and stuff like that. They know they're, there's something in them, satisfaction, I guess, because it feels bloody good, the way he's going about it, and all of us on the ride with him. So yeah, they're my initial thoughts, mate.
Yeah, well, completely spot on. And then even yesterday where we were watching that game, because I always go to the game with one of my good mates, and then he was saying, imagine being Charlie Curnow right now. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just like the I guess just the awe about him is pretty unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with your point about the just trying to soak in the moment, because I mean, I know that this is a little bit off track, but even Lance Franklin, when he kicked the 1,000 goals last year, that's unlike him to really soak it up and kind of show some emotion, be like, like getting around it, because he's such an introverted sort of person that you don't really see that much from Lance Franklin. And even seeing that, like the commentators, and even he was saying after the game, he was saying, like, I just wanted to make sure that I soaked in the moment, all the enjoyments. And then also Ben Cunnington a few weeks ago when he retired. He's as introverted as it comes. And then it's just good that players are now starting to soak it up and really soak in their I guess the achievements as they should as well. Like they fucking worked hard for it. So but now we'll move on to, I guess, a little bit of concerns, I guess, going into the final. Of course, we'll touch into more depth, as you said earlier, for the preview episode of finals week 1. So exciting to say that. But the two things that we'll touch on before we transition into the game sense is, of course, Blake Acres and his injury. So right now it's a collarbone injury. Obviously, when you hear that, I think it comes straight to a snap of the collarbone, which is very worrying to think about. That's 100% season done for Blake Acres, but we don't know if it is that as of yet. But I know that, I mean, realistically, when we kind of think of a collarbone injury, that has to be one of the things that goes straight to your mind. But the injury happened right in front where I was sitting, and as soon as it happened, he ran straight off and the sub was made. So that was one of the big worries, how you didn't really I guess, assess it and kind of see how it was going to play out. You made the sub straight away, and whether that was a bit of a tactical sub from obviously saying, look, like there's no point, let's just sub you out anyway. But the other one before I transition to you, Daff, is Jacob Wiedering and the suspension. So a bit of an eye poke to Toby Green. And there's talk about, I guess it was a bit of careless conduct, and I think that's equivalent to, I think it was 1 week. It was either that or intentional conduct. I don't know, but whatever. I think it was Tom Morris saying on SEN earlier, and he was saying whatever he was saying, it would be 1 week. But I mean, I guess to touch on Blake Acres first, Staffy Boy, but then also your opinion as well on the Jake Wiedering suspension. What were your thoughts on the injury and also the suspension?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm pretty down in the dumps about the injury. Like you said, I was watching him straight away when he hurt his collarbone. And it was just, he was in a lot of pain. I thought it might have been just like got winded or something, because he was just holding his kind of body. And obviously then you could kind of tell it was a shoulder or a collarbone. So and he was good yesterday. I thought he was probably our best again. I thought he had 55% game time and he had 23 touches. So it shows you the impact he has. And if he's out first week, it's a massive out. I think he provides something different, both behind and ahead of the ball as a winger, because he's got that size about him where he can take contested marks at either end, important marks. And also he covers the ground so well. And, he breaks lines for us, which is kind of the way we like to play with, the halfbacks we have inside and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bit, it's a negative. Oh, why does it have to happen in the last game? I said to my mum, why does it happen? I said, why don't we just play someone else this week? Give Jackson Binns their first game or something like that, and leave Akers out. But I think you can't really flirt with form in terms of, you can't just drop everyone before the first final and then bring him in. You've got to keep it in. So it's just the unfortunate state of AFL. Right now, we've just heard the news that Melksham's done his ACL, and he's just turned 32, so that's probably career over for him. And he missed the 2021 premiership, so and he probably could miss another one. So it's a shame. Thoughts go out to him as well. So it's the sport. It's the sport we love, and we also hate it for numerous reasons. And onto Wiedering, I don't think he'll get the week. It's a very different one. I did listen to Tom Morris as well, and he did say if it was careless, it would be a week. But he reckons it's a much different situation to a lot of eye gouges in terms of it was careless, but it wasn't really. It was minimal, like the impact. It was not really, he wasn't. I think the Berry one on Oliver last year might have been in the final. He was more like on top of him, like properly, and he only got a week for that. So I think Wiedering was more trying to pull him off. A guy who was putting his teammate in a headlock, by the way, trying to pull him off. And then he kind of, it was like 0.1 of a second, he kind of went off straight away. So that's a good sign for me. And hopefully he doesn't miss. I don't think he'll miss, because I'm not sure if I want to see Lewis Young lacing up the boots in the first final.
I was saying that to my mate yesterday. I'm like, if he's out, we will have to play Lewis Young, or we might even have to play Dominic Huey, mate. Who knows? We might have to put Huey in for the elimination final against the Swans. But yeah, I completely agree. Like Blake Acres, that's just such a concern. I mean, we don't want to say anything yet because no news as of yet, and I don't want to say anything because I don't even want to think about it, because I just want him to be okay. Hope that this is why the first week, the pre-finals bye is so important, because players like this who might have that 1 to 2 week injury just gives them a bit of a break, a bit of a setback, so they can just go towards an elimination final or week 1 of finals, and hopefully that they're fit. But the other one, Jacob Wiedering, I do see your point, and it's just, I think the AFL this year have made it where if you touch anywhere near the eye, that has to be counted as intentional and careless. And I hate it. I hate it. But you also see the point of it as it's just stupidity. He didn't have to do it. He did not have to do that. And that's where I'm coming from, where of course you would love Jacob Wiedering. He's the most, like, I've been saying it every single week. He's our most important player out there. And if he is not playing, good luck to the rest of the team, because we will not, we won't be fully fit if Jake Wiedering isn't out there. So I just think that hopefully he somehow gets off it. I think he will. My gut feel says he will. But also on the other hand, we haven't really seen a lot of eye pokes this season, especially. It's going to be interesting to see what they actually do with Jake Wiedering, especially for a final. I wonder if it's going to be. I mean, I don't think they'll change, I guess, the ruling of it, but just let him off. He's fine. Like, he hasn't been to the bloody tribunal. Just let him off. So, but now we'll move on to, I guess, the ground overview, and we'll kind of touch on the defense, midfield, ruck, and of course the forwards. And we kind of just have to go through the defense, as you mentioned earlier, Daffy Boy. Probably the first time this season, even that we've really seen the defense. I guess in a word, like, a depleted in a way. I mean, conceding 105 points against the Giants. I don't know. It's a little bit of a worry, but I think at the end of the day, I don't think there is much to worry about towards finals. But 3 names before I transition to you, Daff. Nick Newman, 25 touches. His direct opponent was Toby Green, and he ended up kicking 4. So that was a bit of an interesting one. Brody Kemp, 16 touches, 6 marks, but his direct opponent was Jake Riccardi. But I still think Kemp still performed quite well. He actually transitioned forward in the last quarter. I don't know if you saw that, but he was in the forward line for the last quarter, which was quite funny to see. But also Jacob Wiedering, as we've touched on, 18 touches, 7 marks. He's such a important player down in that defensive area. But Duffy Boy, those 3 names, and of course some other names that come to your mind. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, with the first name, I thought Newman actually struggled a bit with ball in hand. I thought there was a lot of times where he was on his left foot and could kick, and he'd go and fake his opponent and run on his right foot every time, then force a handball to a player under pressure. There was a few moments there where it happened a lot, and it was just like, what the hell is he doing? Like, It was just so many times we could have got it inside 50 and fast to one-on-ones, and then he'd take it on. I don't know if you saw it as well, but he'd take him on and then go on his opposite foot and then wouldn't be able to kick, so he'd handball. And it was just like, it was overused for mine. I thought that as a whole, we overused it in a sense throughout the whole game. But yeah, his direct opponent, Toby Green, kicked goals, but I think that was off the back of, our transition defense, because we press up a lot and there was a lot of goals out the back last night. So I'm not sure if we can be too worried about Newey, because I think his form's been really good, and obviously he's pushing an All-Australian selection. Hopefully this week, I think on Wednesday they pick the team, so that'll be very, very interesting. Brody Kemp, yes, like you said, he went forward. It was giving me 2021 Liam Jones versus Melbourne vibes, but no, Kempy can play forward. But yeah, I'm not sure what the thinking was there. Maybe, I don't know, just mix it up. Maybe because Marchbank was subbed on and maybe we were too tall down there. I think that might have been the reason. I'm not really sure, but he was okay. Actually, Kempy took a few big marks. It's a good matchup, him and Riccardi, I reckon. I think they're kind of similar height and similar size and athleticism. So I think Kemp will be right. I thought Wiedering was superb yesterday. They don't really have that key forward, do they? They obviously have key forwards, but they don't have the man. They don't have a Harry or a Charlie up there. They've got more of a Toby Green focused forward line. But no, I thought Wiedering was good. He's taking his marks. That's all you want to see from him. When the ball's going in, you go, yep, he's going to mark it. Yep, it's a really good sign. So yeah, defense conceded 105. But maybe, like I said, it might be a good thing. Might be a good, rocket up the backside for finals, and hopefully, beat the Swans in the first week.
Yep, completely spot on. Just to also touch, also touch on Brody Kemp and his opponent of Jake Riccardi. I think Jake Riccardi played quite a solid game, but I think he kicked a few cheap goals. So I think it kind of looks bad for Kemp, because he kicked 3 goals and that's his direct opponent. But same thing with Toby Green.
They were cheap.
Yeah, they were cheapies, weren't they? It's not like it was really Nick Newman's fault. And as you said earlier, I don't think it's necessarily Nick Newman locking down Toby Green. And I just think now it's going to be quite a good conversation to have where when Sam Doherty does come back, I don't know, because now that Walsh and Chera are both back, I don't know if Doherty is going to play that midfield role. So that means that he might go back into the back line. And that's going to be, I guess, a conversation to see what happens with Nick Newman, because he's right now playing that Doherty role of last year. So
Yeah.
if he's like, I think I like Newey playing as that Doc role.
Yeah.
But now with Doc coming maybe back to that back line, that's another talking point. But we'll now move on to the midfield conversation. Now we saw two players return, which was great to see. Of course, Sam Walsh and Adam Chera. They both returned and played solid enough games. I think Walsh started off really well in that first or second quarter, and that's probably when we were up and firing. So it was good to see Walsh really dominate in that first half. But Chera looked just a little bit, I guess, underdone, and that's quite understandable. Like especially with Chera, because he came back one game against Collingwood and he played a half and then he went out again. So it's not like he's had a lot of football in the past probably 10 weeks, but I think Walsh had 28 touches in the end. So now my other question before I transition to you, Duff, as well, is now that Cripps is going to come back, Paddy Dow, now he wasn't great yesterday at all. Now it's stiff on Dow. You don't want to single out players, but unfortunately with the team that we have right now and the players that we have to bring back into this side, guys have to make way. And I really would have loved to see a Paddy Dow perform yesterday to make it even harder for the selection. But unfortunately, I just think Paddy Dow has to make way for Paddy Cripps. But for those three names, Daffy Boy, but of course, other names that come to your head as well, what were your thoughts on the midfield?
Yeah, just starting on Walsh and Chera, I thought it was just good to see them back in action. I think they're going to be, our two main mids for the next decade or so. They're only 23 years old, which is nuts. And I think it's good they got through the game. I actually saw walking into the game, I actually saw Sam Walsh's mum waiting near the gate, so that was that was quite funny. But no, I thought Walsh's game was solid. He's missed a fair chunk of footy this year as a whole. He had an injury early in the year, and then he came back, and then he got injured again. So it hasn't been consistent for him this year, but it's good to see him playing well. And Chera, like you said, I thought he was just a little bit rusty yesterday. So was all the kind of returnees. I thought Walsh, he was good, but I thought you could tell. Same as Gov. I thought Gov was quite okay, but I just thought it was just a little bit of match fitness they needed, and they'll be good to go. But based on the Paddy Dow question, I was thinking about it post game straight away, and I thought, I think he's going to have to make way. If you bring in Doc and Cripps in, who both can play mid, I think they probably make way, and there's probably going to be an unlucky one in terms of Cunners, or I thought Cunners had 24 touches, but I thought he struggled. I thought he struggled in terms of impact that we know he can. His silk and his cleanliness. I know he had 24 touches, but sometimes it's just numbers for me. I thought 17 handballs, 180 meters gained. So I don't know. I just thought his game was. I don't know. Someone's going to have to be unlucky, unfortunately, whether it's him or Fogarty or whoever. Because I think, or even Corey Durden, is going to be unlucky when Motlop comes back, because I think that has to be the switch for mine. In terms of both of their forms, it's going to be unlucky for Durds. But I think with the Dow question, I thought he was meh yesterday. I thought he was, you can tell, I don't know. There was this feeling yesterday that I just felt like that could be his last game this year, pending on injuries and stuff like that. So you bring in Cripps and Doherty for Dow and whoever, that sets pretty good players to bring in.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where I kind of see it as well, where usually when Paddy Dow plays a good game, he's the one that stands out.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, like he had 21 touches. I'm just like, 21 touches, really? Like, I didn't think he had that much of the ball, but I do agree to a sense with Cunningham, but I still think he's so important, and along with Fogarty as well. I still think they are both so important, and that's actually the first time Cunners has lost in a while. Playing it. Because he was obviously in that 9-game win streak, but I think even when he was playing, I think he would have prior to his injury, I think he would have also been, I guess, involved in a few wins as well. But 24 touches for Cunners, but also Zach Fisher is another conversation to have. Because to me, and this is just my opinion, and I got this a little bit off Barney as well. We were having a convo last night, and I just think that he's too attacking. He's a little bit too attacking for a defender, and it's quite hard for him because he's gone straight into. He's kind of been dropped into that defensive role. But I think I would rather see a Jordan Boyd back and take over that Fisher role. But who knows? Even with Sam Doherty coming back, maybe that takes that Zach Fisher role. And like Alex Chincotta, who I reckon was actually quite solid yesterday.
Yeah.
I reckon he's going to probably maybe play that Zach Fisher role and maybe get a little bit more of the football. I don't know. But yeah, I think Zach Fisher looked a little bit. He was found out yesterday, and I think he kind of showed against a good side in Giants. He gets a little bit found out, but yeah, I think another conversation. I mean, I know that it's kind of based on the midfield right now, but I think another player that we need to touch on is Mitch McGovern, and he looked very underdone as well yesterday. He was just dropping marks and making mistakes that he doesn't usually do. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, it's just so frustrating. But as I said, we can't be looking at the negatives right now, because right now we just have to try and soak in the moment of going into finals in a couple of weeks' time. But the big one, I reckon, out of all these lines is the ruck conversation, and it's TDK. We saw him in that sole ruck position, and the other player, of course, Harry Mackay, is that second ruck. It's a big conversation to have. We spoke about it before we press record on the episode, and who knows, we might see an inclusion next week for the final. But how did you see TDK in that sole ruck position, but also Harry Mackay as a second ruck?
I thought TDK was really good yesterday. I just look at the stats now, and I thought his impact was good, and his fight. Well, he won the hitouts. He won the hitouts 34-22 against Briggs. So that's a massive. I think he kicked a really good goal as well. So he had a really solid all round game, and he's showing why we want him to stay at Carlton, and obviously he re-signed, so it was good to see. But and he had 6 clearances to go with that as well, which is a good sign always. But with the second ruck, I think Harry can play the ruck, but I'm just not now. I think you need to train to be a ruckman in terms of craft.
Yeah,
like he probably needs a month with Matty Cruiser or whoever at training to really get down pat, because sometimes in the ruck contest, he, especially in the middle, he really didn't look like he knew what he was doing. It looked like a genuine pinch hit, ruckman, and credit to him, he had to be yesterday. But maybe he did it on purpose. Maybe he said, "Fuck you, Vossi, I want to play only forward. I don't want to play in the ruck." So I'm well with that. I don't think that'll be it's just a shame about Sauce, man. It is just an absolute shame, because he would play that role to a T. But I think for the first final, based on what I've been hearing about Pito in terms of his sickness throughout the week, he hasn't been able to train much. He was omitted, but I think he was dropped, but also because he didn't train much throughout the week, he wasn't playing. I think we need him for the first final, because I think they've got some good ruck stocks, the Swans. They've got obviously Hickey, Amadi, and McLean. So you probably do need both of them playing. I think just around, there was something about the stoppages yesterday. They're running through a little bit easy. And I think with Pito, sometimes he's got that big ball, he's a big boy. And he's a bit more physical around the contest than Tom is sometimes, and also Harry when he was in the ruck. So yeah, I think they'll both play the first final, Pato. But it's just, once again, who the hell do you drop? Who the hell do you drop? That's lucky we're not the selection committee.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we were the selection committee, I reckon we would play Dom McHugh in the forward line. Put Daffy Boy in the ruck, mate. Put Daffy Boy. But yeah, it's a good conversation to, I guess, touch on, and I think TDK was really good yesterday, but I think he was so good because of that sole ruck position, which is like that's not the problem. I think it's the second ruck which is the problem. So TDK, we all know that he could be the sole ruckman, but it's down to what you do with Pitnet. I mean, what you do with that second ruck, that's the problem. And God, it's just so
good problem. Because we've got the players to do it. We've got the players to be out on the ruck, but it's a good problem, but a bad problem. There's plenty of good problems we're currently facing, which is shows where the growth we've had, in my opinion. Because 2 years ago, we're on Bagger Chat talking about, should we delist, Josh DeLuca, for fuck's sake? Should we be picking Josh DeLuca? Like, he was okay, but why do we delist, Michael Gibbons and stuff like that? We don't have those players anymore.
Yeah.
No, we have fringe players still. but our fringe players get better and better as the years go by. Plowman's a 150, game player at Carlton. He's a fringe player now.
Yeah.
So it's where the whole selection, it's shifted massively, and especially in the last probably 10 weeks when we've been winning.
Yep, well said. And I think it's good because I think that Silvani will be like primed right in front of the grand final when we play in it. I reckon he'll be straight back into the grand final team, Daffy boy. But okay, yeah. So now we'll move on to the forward line. Of course, there's a few names that we have to touch on. I think there's probably one name that we have to touch on in particular, but of course, there's a few other forward players that played solid enough to probably get their spot locked in for finals football. But also, then there might be a few players in there that might be a little bit nervous. But then the main name that we have to touch on is of course the common medalist Charlie Curnow, who kicked 3 goals overall in the game, but he locked in that Coleman medal very early, which is quite comforting for Carlton supporters to kind of see that. But also Matt always performed well as well. I think he ended up with about 2 goals as well, so he played quite a solid game. He's that guy who just he's by far our most consistent forward, small forward this year. He's been absolutely fantastic. So Matt always is an absolute lock for the elimination final as well. But another player that we have to touch on is Jack Martin, who I think he will definitely be playing in the elimination final, but he was a little bit found out yesterday by a solid defender in Connor Iden. And Martin ended up kicking 1 goal, but I think Iden still did his role. And as you said earlier, it was just found out by Connor Iden. And he's a great defender. I still think he's underrated. Giants defenders are so underrated. And actually, before we touch on anything else, I think we have to touch on that Sam Taylor was, of course, laid out for the game. So we were a little bit excited because we were like, oh, well, if Sam Taylor's not playing, who knows? But I think like a Lockie Key for even like a Jack Buckley who went straight to Charlie Curnow. I still think he did quite a solid job on Charlie Curnow after he kicked those 3 goals. But those 3 names, Daffy boy, and of course, maybe to touch on a Cunners or a Lockie Fogarty as well, and probably a Corey Durden. What were your thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, no, I thought just getting the ball inside 50, we struggled a little bit. Not getting it in, but it was just our efficiency, I think, was a little bit off yesterday. I think we were just a little bit off as a whole. But yeah, I think obviously you got to touch on Charlie. I thought he actually played pretty well, Charlie. I thought started really quick, obviously got his 2 goals early, which is good. Didn't have to worry about that, so got it done. Obviously he ended up with 3, which is good. And he dropped that easy mark. I was like, what the hell? I was like, that's what I knew. I was like, there's something up here. Something up here. The intensity's out of the game. It was just, But with our other forwards, obviously always, I think, I touched on last week, I think we all thought he was that, pressure forward, but now he's actually the small forward that every good team has in terms of goals. He's a goal scorer now. He's changed his game. He's evolved his game to be a goal scorer. And to be fair, he's since even in his first game, I think he kicked 3 or 4 against Essendon. So he has been that kind of goal, threat when we are playing well. So that's really good to see. He got around it once again yesterday with the goal celebrations in the. I'd hate to think what he'll do if he kicks a goal in the final, but he'll do a cartwheel in the middle of the jig or something like that. I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Chuck it down in the comments below if you listen right now. What will Matt always do for his first goal in the final? Will he do a chest bump? Will he? I don't know what he'll do, but he'll do something, the little fella. But on Jack Martin, I think I just think it was just Connor Iden who beat him, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen, and I'm happy it's happened in a game, in a round 24 game. I think it's really hard to defend Jack Martin. I think he's really unpredictable in terms of what he can do. Aerially, he's really good. On the ground, he's really good. But I thought he denied him getting the ball at all in any contest. That was his number one priority, and it also hurt us on the way back. He'd take a mark and go forward with it. Iden, like you said, I think he's really underrated, like their other defenders. I think they need to put a little bit more respect on the names of, Jack Buckley's and Connor Idens and other guys like that through there. And like you said, Lockie Keefe, he's a bit of a job doer. He plays in the ruck, up forward, down back. I think he was at Collingwood before then. But yeah, he's kind of that role player. They always kind of tend to have, the Giants. They always have one of those blokes, don't they? So, I just thought his positioning on Martin was crucial in terms of minimising Jack's impact. But I know around the first week of finals, I think Jack Martin will be eyeing the goals up, mate.
Like, actually, to flash back to what you were kind of saying about Matt Owies, and I think, could you imagine just try and imagine just in your dreams, mate. So all the supporters out there, Matt Owies kicking the winner in the grand final, to solidify the premiership, and it's Matt Owies. Imagine what he would do. I reckon his head will blow off. I reckon his head will blow off. It would be unbelievable because he gets excited if he kicks a goal if we're fucking 80 points down.
Training.
Imagine if he fucking kicks the winner on grand final day. But it's just so exciting to have guys like that because as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, he's that supporter. He's a supporter that exactly how he celebrates. That's how we celebrate. Mate, our fucking head is about to blow off if you fucking kick a goal against Essendon, mate. So, but yeah, well said. I think it's the forward line. These are the players that are going to win us a final. These are the guys that are going to put us deep in the finals. If these guys are performing, Jack Martin is that player that can really, really show up in a final, in a big game. And all these guys haven't played finals. So it's like a Charlie Curnow who's that finals player, Jack Martin, Harry Mackay, Matt Owies. Like these are finals players that you want to see in a big game. And it's finally their opportunity where hopefully we can see them against Sydney Swans on a Friday night. And of course, actually, we will mention this before we touch on the best on ground, but our first final is locked in for Friday night against the Sydney Swans. So it's the 8th of September. So I think tickets come out Wednesday morning. So this episode will be released tomorrow 9 a.m. A Tuesday morning 9 a.m. So it's quite exciting to kind of think about us actually buying finals tickets for the Carlton.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up the episode, Daffy boy, I need your best on ground. Probably for the first time in 9-10 weeks, there's not a lot of players that were really best on ground yesterday. But if you were to name one player from the Carlton Football Club, who would you say?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm looking through the names here, Pato, and nothing's really. Obviously we had some solid players, I thought, but for me, I know he didn't have 20 touches and 700 goals, but I thought Tom De Koning was our best in terms of we gave him the challenge in the preview. He's facing Kieran Briggs, who's really good, and I thought he really played well against him. So I thought 34 hitouts is pretty good. Considering a few years ago we're talking about TDK wasn't getting enough hitouts. So obviously his craft's improved. We've got other names in there that I could Walsh was good, but I think I'm going to give someone else a go this week, and I think TDK was definitely good. Was definitely good yesterday.
Okay, well, I do like the thinking because even like a couple of weeks ago, I think I said, maybe it was you. It was one of us who said the best on ground for TDK. But yeah, I reckon I want to say Charlie Curnow, but I'm like, we always say Charlie Curnow. So I reckon I'll put it to the returning Sam Walsh, and I reckon his first half in particular was fantastic. And in the end, he got 28 touches, and I think he went at 75% efficiency. So he still had a solid game, 4 tackles, 3 marks. Of course, he didn't impact the scoreboard, but he still got 13 contested possessions. So I still think he played a solid game. And as we've mentioned throughout the episode, it's good to get these guys back in their, match fitness before a big final. But also to touch on Adam Cherry, he had 23 touches, but he still played a solid. That's still solid numbers. I think he had 74% efficiency, but I think it's just good to have these guys come back in, and we saying an Adam Chera, he probably won't get as many touches as what he used to get throughout the season because now we have Sam Walsh back. So one of these players, unfortunately, like a George Hewitt, he had 20 touches, but he was good. Yeah, he was fantastic. He was fantastic.
Left foot goal.
Yeah, left foot. How good was that?
What the hell? I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I didn't know George had that in his repertoire. I was like, Jesus.
What? Bill, he kicked it from 50. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, I was like, what the hell's going on? But I think it's just a guy, unfortunately, guys like that, and it doesn't matter because that Chera can pull out a 30 disposal game, but I think Chera still had a solid game with 23 touches. But Yep. Yeah, that is, of course, the last review for the home and away season. Couldn't even get the word out there, Duffy boy. But before we, I guess, wrap up the episode, is there anything else you would like to touch on for our final review for the home and away season?
Yeah, it's weird. Usually we're looking at trade periods and drafts currently, and the whole season review, looking at every game. Obviously, we were last year, so just happy we're in the finals. It's a bit of an odd feeling. I'm definitely content of where we're at right now, and for me, let's just get a finals win, because I think it's needed for this club. And you never know, Pato. You just never know what's going to happen. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. If we want to go all the way, it's going to be tough. You got to beat Sydney. You got to beat, Collingwood or Melbourne at the G, and then you got to play Brisbane at the Gabba, or probably Brisbane at the Gabba. I'd imagine they'd win the first final. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, Pato, but let's just enjoy it and get around the Blue Baggers, eh?
Yep, completely spot on. Because we'll have to beat Sydney, then we'll have to beat either Collingwood or Melbourne, then we'll have to beat Brisbane, then we'll probably play St Kilda in the grand final, mate. So
Giants to the grand final, and Connor Iden's going to win the Norm medal.
Oh God, if that happens, you can sign my life away, mate. You can sign my life away. But of course, to all the viewers and listeners that is watching this episode right now, and of course has watched us the whole season. I hope you've enjoyed season 3 for Baggers Chat. It's been a bit of a different looks for this season, but I think entirely, I think we both had an absolute blast throughout the season. And now finally we can actually be excited for finals content coming in 2 weeks' time. And hopefully we have a few more episodes to bring out. Hopefully there will be 8 episodes to bring out. Of course, for the grand final. I mean, who knows, mate? For the grand final, we might bring a few reviews out, mate. So, but let's just try and get through the elimination.
Yeah, let's get through that.
but yeah, to all the viewers and subscribers and the listeners out there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to try and share the channel around. But you will see us for the preview episode for Carlton v Sydney Swans. But to you, Duffy boy, and to all the Blue Baggers out there, up the Baggers!